Welcome everybody and welcome to Property Women's webinar on the Brisbane Market Update. I am Jo Badillo and I'm super excited to be sharing with you the information that we've collated on Brisbane, and please by all means ask questions. I will come back to them as best I can. Sometimes I can't sort of stop mini presentation to sort of address a question, but I'll try to dedicate that time towards the end to go back and make sure that I address everything that's been asked of me throughout this. This has been recorded during lunch, so the nature of our webinars during the middle of the day is kind of a bit rapid fire, because I recognise that people are taking time out of their day and you're here to get information and facts, and I'm going to give you all of that. I just want to make sure it's digestible and that you get maximum value, and that we keep it succinct as well, so it doesn't erode your time as well. So here we go. Let's get started. Brisbane Market Update. I always launch into webinars, and I always will launch into presentations by saying always take advice from licensed professionals. So all the information that you're going to be seeing here is all collated from a realm of different sources: Australian Bureau of Statistics, CoreLogic, a lot of media, Property Observer, hotspotting.com.au. There's a whole bunch of information that we're providing to you. It is all being well researched. It's all factual. It's just a matter of you go in to invest in a location, you always seek the advice from licensed professionals in that field. So always have your contract reviewed by a solicitor. Always, before you embark on a purchase, speak to your accountant for your tax advice, and also for the buying entity which you're about to enter. Ensure that your finances are in order. Ensure that what you're investing in is also, not going to put your lifestyle in any way under any sort of duress. Property investing is a business. Treat it like a business, but don't treat it in such a way that it's going to impact your life here and now. It's really, really important to enjoy the journey as much as the outcome of the wealth that you're going to be accruing through investing in property. So we're all about Brisbane today. I'm kind of curious how many, and if you are, please jump in the chat and just tell me if you are from Brisbane now, because I'm going to be talking about your city, and be quite interested to see what your take is on it, because I'm actually a Sydney-sider myself, but I have spent many weeks now really in Brisbane over, I guess, I've been investing in Brisbane for 10 years, so that's a decade. Before that, I was there as a tourist. I spent a lot of time in Brisbane, so we've run up the frequent mile flights to see and learn and do and experience this beautiful city. And the reason I'm bringing this information to you is going to be unravelled in the next half an hour to 45 minutes. So what we're going to be discussing is really Brisbane. Whilst I'll be broadly speaking about Southeast Queensland, I just want to bring to your attention that Brisbane's made up of 5 main councils. We've got Brisbane City Council. I'm going to run my cursor over that. Redland, Logan City, Ipswich and Moreton Bay. So these are the ones that really do make up where the investor activity tends to be the strongest, and a lot of the buyers that we speak to are always seeking further information on this. So that is really what I'm focusing on when I'm talking about Brisbane. I'm not just talking about the city itself. I am talking about those areas that are on the outskirts of Greater Brisbane is what we're talking about today. So why Brisbane? A whole bunch of reasons why Brisbane, and why Brisbane now is more than ever on people's radar as well. It's got the largest infrastructure spend in Australian history underway as we speak. And that's a plan that's going to take us through to the early 2030s, which sounds like a crazy number, which actually is only about 11 years away, realistically, less than 11 years away. It's got a fantastic employment outlook. The economy is strong. The population forecast is strong. That's a mix of, migrant activity, international migrant activity, as well as a lot of interstate activity as well for population growth. It is affordable, which is something that can't be said for other capital cities for a lot of people. The returns are really strong, whereas other capital cities, you find that your rental returns are really, it's just tough to make ends meet when you're investing in Sydney and Melbourne sometimes, and your income isn't able to sustain or prop up that property. And it's also got a really strong history that I can give you, I guess, evidence to show where this growth is going to be coming from as well. The Southeast Queensland corridor provides both yield and growth, which is something that many investors feel they've got to choose from when they're making the buying decision. It's like, am I going to chase yield or am I going to chase growth? And what this area and region is providing at the moment is a combination of both, which is really, really exciting from an investor's point of view. So you're able to build up your net worth and it's not going to be impacting your day-to-day cash flow. The yield often in most areas that we're looking at actually covers the mortgage and allows you to free up your income then to buy and buy again as well. And what it is it's the investing utopia. It's got your capital growth, it's got the rental yield, but it also adds diversity to your portfolio. So if you're not a local to Brisbane and you are looking at or curious from an interstate investment standpoint, you're diversifying your portfolio. It's a very, very good strategy to implement. And this is where you're going to be finding you get the three. You get the yield, you get the growth, and you get the diversity as well. Okay, so here's a fun fact, and I shouldn't be laughing at it because I'm actually from New South Wales. But New South Wales actually had the highest loss interstate migration of nearly 22,000 people during 2017-2018. And Queensland benefited from a growth interstate of 24,700. So that's quite a significant number. It was the highest net gain of any state in Australia. And so I'm just going to check a chat because of the traffic. It's spot on, Margaret. That's exactly why everyone left. I think on the back of Sydney's market going gangbusters. I mean, I knew personally a number of people that just raised the white flag and declared themselves had enough, need to get out of town, need to go find somewhere that they can actually like have a really good balance of life and lifestyle. So, Queensland got a few more New South Welshmen in that time as well. I don't know if you guys can hear this dog barking in the background. I just want to put a asterisk that it's not mine. So I can hear it. I hope you're not hearing it as well. Okay, so let's talk about this. Makes it sound so suburban. I'm just keeping it real, folks. So we're going to be talking about Queensland from a macro perspective. Whilst I'm going to nut down a little bit more on the micro. I'm not going to be presenting buying opportunities where I recommend you buy from a suburb to suburb perspective. I'm going to be looking at the city itself and in the whole region. A little bit of touching on different areas, but really this is not about selling areas or selling stock or selling anything per se. It is really about looking at the whole location and why it is seeing the up and up in terms of growth as well. And the next best thing to a crystal ball that I can provide to you all is the research that we've done. We've spent quite a number of hours putting this webinar together because, I want to be able to deliver opportunities, ideas and inspiration to property women and just ensure that you're making a really sound buying decision as well. So the next best thing to a crystal ball is to look to the experts, to look at various growth indicators as well, and I'll step through those. But you've also got to be cautious about the crystal ball or reading things on a macro level. So if you look at the journalism per se, and you get these headlines that suggest, a region's going, well, let's just use Sydney, for example. Sydney has got many, many markets within the city. Like there's just the diversity. If you are a local, you'd know that, people who buy in Avalon are very different to people who buy in Campbelltown, who have a different budget to people who live in Ramsgate. It's just so different and so diverse. So you read in the media people talking about a city from such a massive viewpoint, but they're not actually indicating that we're talking about the northern suburbs or perhaps the coastal areas. You've really got to delve deep into what you're reading and where you're getting your information from as well. And even during the GFC, some pockets of cities didn't fare that badly and others dropped like 21%. I think one of them that comes to mind. But some areas stood the ground and tested time really, really well, and others really hurt. So you just need to really be conscious of reading blanket headlines when they don't come down to the nitty gritty of where the growth is and where I guess the opportunities lie as well. So the supply and demand indicators, what we look at from a micro level is we look at, how an area is performing, how many days the properties sit on the market, if there is even vendor discounting. The market's on the up and up, there's little discounting, there's a little need to discount. what the auction clearance rates are. Auctions aren't as popular, I guess you could say, in Southeast Queensland as commonplace as they are in Sydney, Melbourne as well. The rental yield of a property or location, what's the stock on market like? Is it a buyer's market, is it a seller's market? You can look at the vacancy levels and also look at DA approvals. So how open is those councils to getting DA approvals through? What are they doing? What are they open to? And how are they supporting investor activity as well? And there is just a snapshot of some of the information that you can research. Now, if you're a first-time investor, this might look like, it might terrify you. People who have been around and bought before will be quite familiar with a lot of these logos. We're looking at RP Data, CoreLogic, Heron Todd White, JLL, realestate.com.au has a really good investment section as well, which is factual, not just selling you houses. Washington Brown Depreciation, all these different, I guess, outlets come and tell a story about a location and help build the story around why there is growth, and what is bringing that, and also what the opportunities are for investors as well. And as a property buyer myself, I look to a mix of these as well as simple treading the ground, understanding what's going on and knowing what agents are telling me as well, and doing that back-end research to support what I'm hearing. Now, this is a Heron Todd White calculator. Heron Todd White, Australia's biggest valuers, and they spend significant investment in, I guess, the property economists and also research analysts that look at Australia on on month to month and what's happening on the property clock. So what this one here is looking at is specifically on houses, and it's telling you how to read the clock in terms of it as an investor. We've got the peak of the market. This has all been going gangbusters for these locations up here. And then you see the drop. It's starting to decline. The market's declining. Not surprising. We're seeing Sydney and Melbourne have come off the boil. And then what is interesting as an investor is to start exploring what's at the bottom of the market, because this is where the buying is great but potentially speculative. What's fantastic is you start to see a recovery, and these are the locations that you sort of wake up and say, hey, well, look, there's Brisbane houses. We're seeing a recovery. It means that you can come in at a point now and secure a property where it's fair to say as that clock rises, you've already made money and capital growth as it goes around. So, again, this is just talking about houses, and I will show you that when you're looking at a city, don't forget that units and houses are two, again, very different beasts that we're talking about. Different people want to live in them, very different people, source these, whether it's a freestanding house, we're talking about family units. Units in the city do tend to be, younger people or double income, no kids, or perhaps they're downsizers that want the simplicity of a unit dwelling. So very, very different markets and what people want. So not surprising that the units in Brisbane are showing a declining market. They've just come off approaching the bottom of the market. I stand corrected there. So Brisbane is actually approaching the bottom of the market because there has been an oversupply. Are the highlighted cities the best performing ones? No, the highlighted cities are the ones that have changed month to month. Thanks for that question. So everything that's in a different colour is actually showing that the month previously, like Geelong and Tamworth here, it's just showing the previous month they sat in a different location. So Darwin's at the bottom of the market now. And then we've got units here, and there's Brisbane approaching the bottom of the market. So there's been a lot of media reports about an oversupply of units in Brisbane, which is fair to say that the vacancy levels in the city hasn't been, I guess, the best investment the best investment decision for many to make in the last handful of years. But the reality is, with population growth, if you've made that buying decision, hang in there, because there is going to be the need for these houses. And I'll show you exactly why the housing, because you'll see the level of population growth coming towards Southeast Queensland is quite high. We also recommend looking at really highly regarded economists and also industry professionals. Terry Ryder runs hotspotting.com.au, and he's also very regularly reported in the media and does a lot of research. I mean, that's what he is. He's a numbers guy, and he's been in the industry for 35 years. In April 2019, in Property Observer magazine, he actually, or was online now, he mentioned that Brisbane has been like, I guess, a beast revving its engine with the handbrake on, a car revving its engine with the handbrake on. And there's a number of different reasons for this. And often Brisbane follows Sydney in terms of growth by a couple of years. It's a little bit behind, but the trend has always been that it will follow suit. What happened at the end of the Sydney market going gangbusters was that APRA put a tight hold on lending criteria, and many investors couldn't make buying choices, even if income hadn't changed or their circumstances hadn't changed. Compared to 2 years earlier, their borrowing capacity had been impacted, which obviously slowed down that investor market as well. So not surprising, it had an impact, I guess, on a national scale of people not being able to do as much investing as they would have previously as well. So his point here, Terry Ryder, was saying that it's poised to deliver and it's showing advances, and it's also getting a lot of Sydney refugees are escaping up there as well. And he also mentions the infrastructure spending, which I will go through. This is actually core logic looking at September 18 compared to September 88 and just comparing the growth. And again, New South Wales is the black line up here. It's showing that New South Wales, they're the rivals to Queensland by state. And then we've got the blue line underneath is representative of Victoria. All the other states seem to hold fort quite well, but definitely a high level of migration coming from south. QBE is looking at the housing outlook for a 3-year period coming from 2018. QBE actually underwrite lenders' mortgage insurance, so they've got quite a vested interest in getting these numbers right. They're certainly not going to be endorsing a location, quite freely. So bring your attention down here. We've got the median house price at June 2018. So you can see Sydney's 1.1, Melbourne's 856, Brisbane's 552. Now comparing that, they're the three, okay, these are the three biggest cities in terms of, where I guess the population lies. But we're just looking down here, the forecast median house price growth is actually minus 1.2 for Sydney, minus 2.5 for Melbourne. Brisbane's at 11.3% for growth in the next 3 years. It is superseded by Adelaide at 12.4, and not far on its tail is actually 10.4% growth for Canberra. I have not invested personally in Adelaide or Canberra, but what I will say about those locations, Brisbane has a lot of projected growth, whereas Adelaide does tend to show a neutral growth population pattern and has done for some time. And Canberra can also be very dependent on the government and very much, sits with the government as being one of the obviously major employers in that particular location as well. So just taking those sorts of, I guess, bigger number into consideration when you're looking to invest as well. So this one surprised me because which capital city had the best long-term capital growth in a 15-year period? Because I would have thought differently to what you're about to see. It actually indicates that Sydney in the past 15 years had 142% capital growth. But I would have thought that this would have been flipped in terms of the chart and have Hobart at the bottom. But Hobart's actually performed better than every other capital city in that 15-year window of time. Brisbane and Darwin equal third. Since this was actually done, I wouldn't be surprised if Brisbane might sit just marginally above Darwin here for growth as well. But quite surprising that Hobart, it's having its day now. It's certainly at the top of its market. But, the 15-year capital growth is showing that it outshines Sydney long term. And now this actual this graph here is an Australian Bureau of Statistics graph that looks at Australia on a national scale since June 1960. And what it's showing is the different peaks and troughs of median house prices. The blue line is actually inflation and house prices as they've climbed, and it has steadily climbed. It's taken a few dips along the way as well, but generally it has obviously shown growth since that period. I just want to bring your attention, and it's in small font, so I will read it out. It just mentions here that negative gearing was actually quarantined in June 1985, and it was then reintroduced in July 1987. So it really did show the impact that had on housing during that period of time. Not surprisingly, once that was actually reintroduced, the spike, that is what we're looking at just here and now, the spike in the market as well. And if you travel along a little bit more, here we have impacts that represent the GFC and when that market went down. And the government introduced the first homeowners grant in July 2000. So again, it showed a peak in the market and did what did it do here? Boosted it in 2008. So again, it just actually shows that I guess, push for first homeowners has an impact. But what we need to remember is that graph there runs, and it runs in the right direction. And many investors and homeowners panic in times when the market does take a dip. And I think it's just important, if you've bought in areas like capital cities and major regional hubs, to try and just weather the storm and not panic and not sell. If you don't have to, look at an alternative way to get, I guess, the best returns from an investment property. If that's the case, if it needs to be Airbnb'd, if it needs fresh carpet and new paint to get a higher rental return, these are the sorts of things you need to take on board and not go into, I guess, a panic state, really. If you can hang in there for that period of time. And the GFC, I mean, that was a good couple of years that a lot of properties went backwards. If you're selling and buying in the same market, in the same city, just remember you're getting less, but you're paying less. So really look at it from that point of view and not panic too much. 134.2 billion spend is the Queensland infrastructure plan through to 2031. And that's dispersed over, health, education, the water, energy, community services as well. But it's 16 billion's actually already been spent. And of that 16 billion, you can really start to see it when you visit Brisbane as a city and start to see the roads and see the improvements and where it's actually been allocated. And I know Margaret made the comment before about traffic. Traffic is so much better in Brisbane than Sydney. Just want to throw that out there. The roads really are accommodating to a growing population versus what we endure down here in the hub. Digital Brisbane is a strategy that's been implemented, and it is also the only city, Brisbane's the only city with a digital ambassador. And the whole concept behind this is actually it's a strategy to draw in digital startups and businesses and help support them, and you do training to try and make Brisbane as a Silicon Valley of Australia. So what's exciting about that is they're trying to bring on the more small to medium businesses and enterprises, the entrepreneurs and the startups, and what they want to do is provide that Silicon Valley environment in Brisbane. So they've got a dedicated ambassador to try and build this up. And I feel like this is an awesome opportunity for Brisbane to really be ahead of where other states are at the moment in terms of recognising the need for this as well. Education, Queensland's a real top performer in this space, especially for NAPLAN. A decade ago, it was languishing, and they put some new strategies through primary schools and high schools, and now Queensland's one of the top performers, and some of those education strategies have been rolled out to other states now as well. So they've been able to pick up state school education as well as, the private sector as well. But really, really amazing turnaround for a decade. The airport in Brizzy is going to be the largest in Australia. We can see here the existing runway, just where you come into land when you're in Brisbane, and look out your window, you can see the new parallel runway coming through here as well. So a lot of money is being spent on the airport, and it is the largest, as I said, in Australia. Operates 24/7, which can't be said for Sydney. It is also doing direct links now to some of the major cities in America. So we're talking about Dallas, Seattle, Las Vegas, Chicago. So that direct path opens its doors then so that Brisbane, just from a business point of view, but also from a tourism point of view, and as that airport does come to fruition, I imagine that they'll put additional legs on where they are direct routes to major cities in the States as well. So the airport's a big deal there. And moving on. Qantas actually has its major engineering hangars and does a lot of their servicing in Brisbane. They've got the space for it, and I think that's a big thing to take on board. It's like they've got the space. So a lot of those engineers and very, very qualified tech staff are all based in Brisbane for the jets as well. So from a perspective of jobs, they've got really high qualified employment opportunities there as well. Looking at land, we've looked at sky. We're going to look at sea for just now and just discuss Port of Brisbane. The Port of Brisbane is 2 sailing days quicker from China than it would be to Sydney. So for this very reason, they're expanding the actual port in Brisbane as well. And, I think in the States, it's something like 53%, might even be higher, of all retail activity now is through Amazon or online. It's so huge now that obviously our retail sector's hurting for it. Walk into a shop, days maybe numbered, or they're harder and harder to come to break into retail as well. But the reality is this is where we're going, and Logan City Council have really embraced this and put in a strategy that they're going to have an industrial warehouse strategy for that region, accommodating all the imports that are coming from China. So, we're needing these warehouses. We need these outlets so that distribution can happen, and Brisbane's providing this as well. So it's obviously moving towards where we all are in terms of how we actually do our shopping in the future as well. And we're also talking about not only just what the government spends are, we're also talking about the private investments as well. And they're building the Queen's Wharf in the city on Brisbane River. And I'll give you a quick look at what that looks like, projected look. Now it's going to be a casino. It's going to have 3 towers and an interconnecting bridge. And it's going to be really attracting those high rollers. And I think if anyone's been to Singapore and they've seen the Marina Bay Sands, kind of, I guess, that beauty and that impact, and that's what they're building. But what they're also allocating is a lot of public space as well, and they're going to have a lot of food and beverage outlets. So it's going to be a major hub for Brisbane when that opens as well. Just at this point, I've got a drawing of what that outdoor look what that's going to look like. I think it's going to look quite nice. You can get a real sense of the future when you look at the plans that are going into place for Brisbane City. Brisbane is the only city in Australia that's also being classed as a world city. It's been voted as a world city, and it's based on a number of different things, because I kind of went, well, what do you mean the only city? But it's based on livability, the weather, jobs, employment, and it's also takes into consideration affordability, which is where I guess Sydney and Melbourne probably fail. For people who are starting out, the amount sheer volume of money you'd need to start out with, Brisbane makes it a far more viable option, and hence they have the proud voted the world city. Brisbane is our only sample of that. The Department of Infrastructure and Local Government have put together what's shaping Southeast Queensland as well. So we're looking at like a really big regional long-term plan here. And what that is taking into consideration is the actual growth of the population, and it's looking at 2015 through to 2041. So I hope you can see this on your screens. It is smaller font, and I do apologise, but Brisbane has a projected growth of 35.26% increase of population in that period of time. The strongest one here is an absolute standout. It's Ipswich. Ipswich is very much up and coming. Like, it's really growing in terms of the jobs, the amount of money that's being pumped into the area, and a lot of they've won a lot of government contracts, and so 169.43% growth. Actually, it's a big number, but over that period of time, it doesn't actually surprise me. Logan, 89.83, which is again a large figure. Noosa is only 17.76, so Noosa is a very, very different location, and it is a little bit further away, and it does tend to draw more of a tourist vibe and more of a retirement location as well. So, but all the others are showing big, big growth there. the average is 58.63% of all those different areas that make up southeast Queensland. So that's between 2015 and 2041. So with the growth of, the sheer volume of people needs to have houses. There needs to be an allocation for homes and the way we live. And that, again, we're looking now 22 years in the future. But what we're looking at is the total people per new dwelling that's going to be required. Brisbane City itself is looking at 2.1. Where the numbers reflect the highest is Ipswich at 3.1 and also Logan at 3.2. That's because those areas are more family-centric. They tend to have larger families, so they are obviously needing to house more people, per household as well. The lowest number here, I believe, again, is looking at Noosa at 1.3 per household. Often, because it is more of a quieter location, more of a tourism vibe, and some retirees, not so much big family units, that those numbers are reflective of that as well. But on average, 2.5 humans need to be housed in every single house. That's what we're looking at here. And that's why the area is so exciting with all the new estates that are coming up, and new estates that are 30 minutes drive from Brisbane itself, and there's been beautifully planned environments that are going to be appealing to so many families, and they're going to be so much need for these properties as well into the future. With humans and with housing, we need jobs. So we're looking at the increase in jobs in southeast Queensland per year is just shy of 34,000 jobs. The clear winner here is the healthcare and social assistance. There's 7,000 new jobs per year. After that, we've got professionals, scientific and technical services. Not surprising, construction ranks really high, and also accommodation and food services as well. Agriculture, forestry and fishing and mining, very, very small numbers up here. Forestry and agriculture is actually taking a dip of -15 in terms of jobs per year. But this is reflective of where the markets and strength is of that particular location now. So Brisbane City is beautiful. It's really, really lovely city. We're looking here at Southport. I'm going to have a drink. South Bank, sorry. I'll just have a drink of water. South Bank, the man-made beach here in the city. It's so cute. Very, very family friendly, really, really nice little nook. And it's, it's very welcoming. It's a really welcoming city, a really easy city to walk around. There's a lot of shops around here. Often I stay not far from here, and I actually do the loop around, walking around, but it's always at night time when I get to actually have the time to breathe. But that is a really nice spot. I've actually taken my kids there before. When we're looking at the estates and all the new master plan environments that are coming through, what really needs to be said is that there's so much allocation for outdoor living. All of these estates have allocations for children and playgrounds and environments where there's a lot of community gathering. Some of them have got outdoor barbecues. Almost all of them have got play areas. They have dog parks, bike parks, and a lot of them have nooks where there's gym equipment there, just the pull-up bars and ability to do your tricep dips as you're going for your run. So very much an outdoor lifestyle is really embraced, and because the climate is so welcoming almost 12 months of the year, it doesn't really get cold. I think if anything it gets super hot. That might be the debilitating month for them, but you're right on the coast. Between Brisbane and Gold Coast, plenty of employment. It's just a really nice family-friendly environment along there. So I just want to share with you, and I did mention this in my email earlier today, that I want to make a super special announcement for an event that's coming up as well, and it's all around Brizzy. And the reason for me putting this together is purely in response to what we run bus tours and have done for some time, especially to Newcastle. But there's been nothing, Brisbane's been left alone for a few years now. So we want to reintroduce this, and we're bringing Brisbane back. And it's a 2-day event we're going to be running, and it's really going to appeal to anyone who is interested in the Brisbane market. People who really want to invest in themselves and their education as well. And they recognise also the value of being around like-minded investors And on our tours, we get a real mix of people. We get seasoned investors who maybe don't know the area and they just want to taste test what's going on, and they recognise the value of that. Sometimes it's people who've never actually bought before. Sometimes it's people who are traveling on their own, and they just want that level of comfort to have someone share with them local area knowledge as well. And this is going to really appeal to people who are exploring these emerging markets and estates in and around Brisbane as well. People who want to understand what the build process is and how they can jump on board and walk through real-time properties. Look at new builds, look at the dual keys, have a look at these estates, see for themselves what's going on as well. And you want to hear from property experts, we're going to have a half-day conference where we're inviting property experts in. We're going to have an accountant there that will talk about tax, depreciation, benefits, and there's going to be a myriad of information that's going to really be I'll tell you one thing. When I first went to my first Property Women event, they said the accountant was going to speak next, and I was worried that it might be boring, and it was probably the best 45 minutes of my life, because the reality is there was so much about tax that I did not realise at that time, and it opened the doors, and it actually wound up saving me literally tens of thousands of dollars. So, question from Tamara. Have I invested in Brisbane personally? Yes, I have. I've actually got 2 properties in Moreton Bay, 2 properties in Logan, income producing properties, but I've also got 3 DA approved blocks for dual key properties. So I'm very much about putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm loving the dual key philosophy because of the depreciation benefits, because the rent will cover the mortgage as well. So that's my 2019-2020 plans personally. This weekend is really about immersing yourself in experiencing Brisbane. So it's a full day bus trip on an air-conditioned coach, picking up from the airport. There'll be another pickup point in Brisbane City. Everything's included. So you get the full day bus fare trip, taking you through different estates, explaining the different locations and opportunities. You get morning tea, lunch, and at night I've got an extraordinarily awesome cocktail party planned, which I'll show you a picture of in a second. And then you get breakfast included the next day, accommodations included. You get a half-day conference, morning tea, lunch, and return to the airport transfers also included in the price as well. And what's really, really exciting is I have organised for us all to go through a property that's called the Gatsby, and it's not to be missed. It's the weekend of August 17th and August 18th. This is the first time I've shared this with anybody, so you are really getting insight now into what we've been working on behind the scenes to really accommodate a lot of our women who are looking to invest in Brisbane. This is a property buying tour, but what we're also doing is including men on this as well. So we're inviting people to bring their, whether it's their joint venture partner, life partner. It's opened up to anybody who wants to be a part of this, and it's in combination with Advocate Property Services. So very much keeping in the ethos of Property Women, where it's about fun, it's about networking, and it's about being able to ask questions. We're not going to overload the bus. It's also about having a fantastic time, because at the end of the first day, I'm taking you through this property, the Gatsby, and we're able to walk through this and have a look. It's a $7 million property in Sanctuary Cove, and it's absolutely stunning. I haven't actually seen it cellar, but I'm told it's to die for. It's full of champagne, so it does sound like my kind of home. We're also going to have a guest speaker who is the interior designer, who's going to be talking to us at night. So whilst we're going to be looking at areas that are going to be appealing to investors around that $400,000 to $600,000 mark during the course of the day, and giving you an insight on Brisbane itself, who doesn't want to end their night with a cocktail party at the Gatsby and have a look at a $7 million property? Because it's all aimed to inspire, and the value you get from networking with people as well, and this is what we really want to endorse. Being around like-minded people is super important. No one's going to be left alone. You're going to be meeting new people and come away with a workbook as well as a whole ton of knowledge as well after this weekend. And that's another interior shot at the Gatsby. I have to say here, as much as I'd love Leonardo to attend, he's certainly welcome to. Can't say he'll be at this Gatsby, but yeah, if anyone knows Leonardo, tell him he's welcome to come. I think that'll make for some really good social media photos. The Intercontinental is our hotel destination of choice. This is included in the ticket for the weekend. It's at Sanctuary Cove. It is stunning. It is a really beautiful resort. I have been there before with my family, so it's very family friendly as well, as you can see here, and just another angle of it there at the front. It's a one night's accommodation, but if you were to choose to fly into Brisbane sooner, and I've given such a big leeway because the flights right now for that weekend are super lenient. Like, you book far enough in advance, the flights are quite affordable. And if you want to bring your family and organise babysitters, by all means, they're welcome to come. Additional rooms or additional nights is at your cost, but there's certainly a double room there waiting for yourself. Welcome to come as an individual, welcome to come and bring your life partner as well. If they wanted to stay there with the kids and you want to join the bus tour, well, that's certainly doable as well. And now, in terms of the value, just to reiterate, airport transfers, half-day conference, air-conditioned coach tour of Brisbane. We're going to have property experts and a panel there. You'll be taken through live through multitude of different new builds, including dual keys, get a really good understanding of what's going on and what's driving the growth. You get morning tea, lunch, and the cocktail party on the first night. Accommodation at the Intercontinental Hotel that evening. Next morning is breakfast. Then we go into the conference room where you'll have morning tea served and also have lunch before we get back on the coach and take you back to Brisbane Airport or the city if that's where you want to go. Or if you want to stay an additional night, by all means, enjoy it because you're there. It gives you, Sanctuary Cove really gives you that good opportunity to fly into Gold Coast if you want, or leave from Brisbane or arrive from Brisbane and fly out from the Gold Coast. So opportunities are there and they're up your sleeve. And the price point has been made so affordable that if you're quite interested and wanting to really immerse yourself into Brisbane, the price point is only $497 for an individual, or you can do share at $697, and that's for two people, so it's sub $350 each if that's where you want to do. That could be your life partner, or you could share a room with a friend if you wanted to. So I suggest that you jump on the prices as soon as you can. We do have 7-day refund policy if you wanted to secure your seat now and get on and check your flights and check your babysitting situations if that's what your availability for the weekend of August 17th and 18th as well. So I really implore that you take action. It's fantastic that you're here and that you want to become, I guess, feed yourself with knowledge as best you can. I really endorse that. But there's something that happens on these bus tours that's hard to put into words. It just triggers, I guess, that level of inspiration and taking action that sometimes a webinar can't provide for you. You can read books and you can Google, but there's just an ability to see, feel, judge, and I guess, ask the questions. And we're going to be providing you with access to all those different property professionals. So it really is an all-inclusive weekend. And hey, who doesn't want to go to the Gatsby for dinner, cocktail party on the Saturday night as well and have a champagne with me? Love you to be able to come along. Early birds always catch the worm. So if you were to email me, we've got a discount code also on top of that. So if you're on the fence, that could be what secures the deal for you. And that is your flights there taken care of. I really thank you for joining me today to hear about what's moving and shaking Brisbane. I sound like I just did 45 minutes perfectly. I don't know how I do it, but I nailed it. I definitely seem to have an inner clock working in my favour. I do sound like, I'm not from Queensland. I am a New South Wales girl, but it's a great city. It's an awesome city to invest in. I thoroughly endorse you coming along and checking it out firsthand yourself. I've got a couple of questions, so I will attend to those as well. So Juna's just included my direct email and her email as well if you want to jump on to those links and find out firsthand a bit more information, and I'll be sharing that with you also in the coming weeks. I haven't made it, as it hasn't become public yet, to Property Women, but we'll be doing that as well. So if you haven't got any questions, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining me. If you do have questions, I'd love to be able to help you answer those. Hi, Lee. Just waiting for those questions to come through as well. I will have a sip of water during that process. Yeah, the only other thing about Queensland is we do seem to have a healthy us versus them thing between, as you know, the state of origin. Hey, Lee, see you in Brizzy. Oh, that'd be awesome. Oh, that's excellent. It's going to be super fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And by all means, if you want to bring a friend or a life partner or whatever, it'd be really good to meet them as well. And if anyone else hasn't got questions, I do know this is a lunch period, so I won't keep you online, but look forward to seeing you there and Lee and anyone else that would like to come along. Grab my email there. It's jo@propertywomen.com.au. I'll just go back to that. And also remember, if you have questions throughout, anything to do, the community is there and waiting. Jump on facebook.com/propertywomen. We've got a group of 2,000 women there, and we love to see your befores and afters and hear about your trials, tribulations, and also cheer you on when you've got a fantastic success story. Be really, really good to see you all join us there. Thank you very much. I'll wrap it up now, and bye, and thank you for your time. Enjoy Brisbane, experience Brisbane. Hope to see you on the bus.